Instead of joining the outrage, they look at the accusers and say, whoever here has never violated a company policy, lied on their timesheet, or have been late for work, or gossiped about a colleague, you can be the first one to fire Beth. Jesus died. Until one day a scribe started adding it into the book of John. Much later, it did not make the first cut. Much later, it got in the book of John because it didn't make the first cut that happened about the 3rd century. But later then, after 1100, scribes were putting it in the book of the Bible of John, Gospel of John. Modern day scholars who have studied this strange action of the addition of this story to the Bible, because there's not another one that's quite like that. They've researched hundreds of old manuscripts of the New Testament, and they found that this story has been moved around, actually, sometimes showing up where it is now, sometimes later in the same manuscript. It's different in the Jesus story sequence. Sometimes it's not even included. But the style of this story is interesting. The language is a little bit different than the rest of John. That's what brought attention to it from the scholars. And the words that they use are a little bit different than the rest of the Gospel of John. And so people started seeing that it was obviously something that was by a different author. But it was still a very important message, a very important story. And people were compelled over time not to forget it and to have it included in the Bible. And the majority of the versions we have today, 2,000 years later, we are telling this story and trying to understand what is the truth this story is trying to get at. What is it that haunts us about this story? Well, let's look at it from a different perspective. Actually, let's look at it from the many different changes of perspective that the story points out to us. We can start out with the beginning. It's early in the morning when the sun comes up. He comes to the temple courts again, it says. All the people come to him, and he sat down. Let me get this other here. I don't want to fall down further than I need to here. So he sat down after he got to the court. And then the experts of the law and the Pharisees brought a woman who had been caught committing adultery. They made her stand up in front of them. And Jesus stands up too, to receive her out of respect. They said to Jesus, "Teacher, this woman was caught in the very act of adultery. The law of Moses commands us to stone her to death. What do you say?" Now, they are asking this, as it says, in an attempt to trap him so that they could bring charges against him. They wanted to get rid of him because he was too popular, too good, helping too many people to do the things that were out of the scheme of what these religious political leaders wanted. So then what? Jesus bent down in the story, and he wrote in the ground with his finger. When they persisted in asking him, so then he stood up straight again and replied, "Whoever among you is guiltless may be the first to throw a stone at her." Then he bent over again and wrote in the ground. He makes them shift their focus, right? Not on her, not on him, but on the ground. And actually, it is going back on them when he says, "The one who has not sinned can throw the first stone." The reflection now has to go within of each of them. Oh, have I sinned? Yes, what? Oh, have I done things like that? And the one standing knew that this person in front of them wasn't really the one to blame. They knew why she was there. They knew what they were trying to do to her. And that made it even more obvious to each one of them why they had to drop their stones. They were trying to drop the guilt that they felt, knowing that they had been exposed, that they had been tricked, that the tables turned on them, and they could do nothing at all about it but to leave with the little dignity that they were left with. And then we have a beautiful scene where the bare minimal of dignity that is left with the woman must be amplified and exemplified. The woman is lifted up by Jesus. The woman is no longer caught in the trap to trap Jesus, because the truth was in exposing the real guilty ones who came to convict another and left as the ones convicted. The ones coming to accuse were unprotected, and the one they accused was protected by the love of Jesus, by his love, his wisdom, and his power to discern what was really going on. I like that part when they heard what Jesus said, for the innocent to throw the first stone. They begin to drift away one at a time, right? Starting with the older ones that probably have many things that they can recount that they have done wrong. And Jesus was left alone with the woman who was standing before him. So Jesus stands up with her, straight, and looks her in the eye and says, "Woman, where are they? Did no one condemn you?" She replied, "No, no one, Lord." And Jesus said, "I do not condemn you either. Go. Be free of this. Be free of this sin, not a sin of yours, but be free of this sin, the sin of this crowd, to be manipulated and used into condemning an innocent one." Just like that, Jesus turns the whole situation around and lifts her up. But just like that, Jesus will also take condemnation to his grave, being innocent to the end. It's a theme in this gospel story, right? So let's just step back a moment into the story again, and the part when the ones who came to convict the woman had to do their own self-conviction. The ones who had to drop their stone and turn and leave the scene. They were the ones turning from being the accusers into the guilty ones. When they turned away and left the scene, they left with the guilt of being found out. And more than likely, they left with anger and resentment to try again to destroy this man and take his power away from him. But his power is a power they cannot take away. And they do not understand that. Because you cannot understand the power of love when you have hate in your heart. Amen? The power of love and grace is the very power of God that heals and protects the ones who are innocent. The woman was not a sinner. The woman was saved from the real sinners who had used her in trying to hurt Jesus. These things happen too easily in life. There was a case of a mother, a father, and a teenage daughter going through the procedures of divorce. We know too many of these kinds of cases, right? Where the mother was divorcing the father after years of emotional abuse, and yet the daughter was caught in the middle. And the father was not going to let this be an easy divorce settlement. He was looking for a way to trap and accuse the mother of something. And he was trying to find a way to take the daughter with him and have all custody, full custody. The father convinced the daughter that he was going to take them on a trip to Italy and that she needed to get her passport away from her mom. The mom was keen to all kinds of the father's tricks from 20 years of marriage to him. And when she saw the daughter trying to get the passports without asking her mom for them, the mom knew something was up. So the mom asked what's going on here and why she was taking the passport. Because the dad had no right to take her out of the country without asking the mom first, right? But the daughter wanted to go and was told by her father that the mom was just jealous and won't let her go. And so she would have to sneak the passport away from the mom. Well, in the moment that the daughter was trying to get the passports and the mom found out, the mom sent her to a room. And that is when the daughter called the dad, and the dad had her all riled up, and the daughter came out of her room and tried to grab and take the passport from the mom and started hitting the mom, and the mom reacted and hit her back. And that is what the dad wanted. He was waiting for that. The daughter fell and was crying on the phone. The dad heard it. The dad knew what was going on. So the dad called the police and went over to the house just like that. And the mom was arrested and taken into custody. The dad had the daughter and the passports, but he still could not go anywhere without the mom's consent, which she told the officers and her judge it was not right what he was doing. It was a long process, and the mom had to go through weeks of counseling, and the father did get custody of the daughter for that time. But the mom was finally expunged, and the true culprit was exposed because of all the counseling and interviews that went through the process. The father was finally seen by the courts for who he was, and the daughter was finally able to see that too. That was the moment of grace for the mother, when the daughter was finally able to see that her dad had done something terrible to her mom, and that her mom was strong through it all. And the daughter wanted to be like her mom, not like her dad. And so, when she turned 18, she went to live with her mother. Love and goodness and grace do prevail. But we have to keep working on being good and encouraging each other when we're going through the worst of times. We cannot give up the need to do the right things and to tell the truth and to trust in God and to recognize the ways others try to use us and abuse us and trick us. This story is keen on that. Jesus wants us to recognize and see and know what is really going on. So what was the point of putting this story in the Bible? I think a lot of us can tell now. It is a very good story. People remember it and love it and tell it. So why? What is about this story that makes it so juicy and good to tell and hear again? Well, this story isn't about individual sin. It is about societal sin and how we are used in society over and over again to rile us up and to push us into believing lies and drawing our attention away from the real guilty ones, the ones abusing the innocents. Evil tries to trick us and throw our attention off, away from who is really causing the problem. It is an old evil political tactic that shows up over time in every time in our history. And today we're living the same scenario of lies, manipulation, acts and facts and false accusations. So we are searching for what is needed. In a moment like this, we are searching for truth. Now, Jesus didn't answer in a physical, authoritative, or confrontational, or doctrinal way. Jesus responded with calm, love, and wise discernment. You know what? so can we. The truth is, Jesus gives us the power to dismantle the system of judgment. We have his power to not fall for the trap, nor affirm the religious elite's hypocritical use of the law to punish anyone, just like we see with the ICE raids and all of the ugliness that is happening. The truth is that we hold the power of grace to empower the victims. We can stand with them just like Jesus stood with the woman when he empowered her. Jesus highlights the injustice of her public humiliation and celebrates the restoration of who she really deserves to be treated as an equal. I think this story is a powerful example of Jesus protecting a vulnerable woman from patriarchal violence and inviting her into a life of dignity, grace, and independence. In Jesus, there is grace, abundant grace. As we go out in the assurance that forgiveness is not just a term, a word. No, forgiveness is God's act of grace, shining in our lives, seeing us for the beautiful people that we each are, and empowering us to use that beauty to help others in this world. And you have that power. You have that power of grace with you. And we are sent out to use it. So let's use it in many, many ways. Amen?